In the year 2063, human beings' terrible treatment of the planet has raised the ocean stages to the point wherein most of Earth is flooded. Now, simple as 2 continents stay, and currently they may be combating a battle over land and resources within the center of the ocean. Between each continent, there's a Navy outpost called the Sentinel, with a team of 4 squaddies which are starting to develop annoyed after years of service. Their contract ended 3 months ago, yet the relaxation team hasn't come to pick them up, but food is getting scarce. So throughout a completely stormy night, Cassidy and Sullivan determined to attempt fishing. Surprisingly, they do nicely and fill their big net with lots of catches. Meanwhile, their advanced officer Henrich notices the storm is getting too violent, so he asks Baines to steady the large explosive that guards the Sentinel. At that factor, the waves start developing big and savage, influencing the station's pipelines. Baines hurries to repair them and stalls his hand out, causing him to battle submerge for a couple of minutes till he at closing can loose himself outdoor. The waves take the internet away and the duo loses their bounty. Sullivan attempts to seize something once more, but the wind is getting too sturdy and threatening, so he has to rush returned inside before he is taken away too. Everyone makes it again simply in time earlier than the significant wave hits the structure, inflicting it to shake and pushing water through every entrance. But the Sentinel continues to be status when it's over. The next morning, the organization discuss a way to lower the intake in their sources while having military rations for breakfast. Dees wonders what took place to the fish and receives angry when he hears they misplaced them. And Sullivan retaliates by insulting Bees for taking components from his kitchen to restore the main pipes. An argument ensues and Henrich reminds them to act like adults, asking them to concentrate on the upkeep. Dees wonders why they do not ask for the relief to hurry. However, Henrich reminds him the telegraph is to make reports simplest afterward. Sullivan does the everyday record the use of the telegraph. He informs the base that there have been no events and that they respond. There are not any occasions they're either equal because the previous couple of months. At some point later, Sullivan joins Hendrix outdoor and in the wake of poking a few fun at their air artist Sullivan tests out. At the ocean with the optics, he's greatly surprised to discover a boat is drawing close, to which Cassidy affirms whilst she certainly takes to observe the radar. Sullivan gets very satisfied because he assumes it is the relief. However, Henrich is cautious and orders bands to carry some weapons in case it's the enemy. Cassidy attempts to touch the ship yet receives no solution, so Henrich makes a decision to provide the ship a danger. He fingers Sullivan a gun and tells him to take the boat to fulfill the ship and ensure there aren't any enemies to fear about. Sullivan straight away takes to the air and strategies the ship, calling out for any viable passengers, but there is nonetheless no solution. Together with his gun out and equipped, Sullivan boards the Deliver and begins investigating, getting increasingly more disenchanted whilst he notices the clues. Objects are covered with dust. The radio isn't working and there's untouched meals in the shelves. Henrich attempts to touch him for a status update, but Sullivan ignores him as he unearths 4 baggage destined for them. This were their comfort, but something took place to the group and that they disappeared, which means they ignored the chance to head domestic. Since Sullivan is not answering, Hendrix accepts he became long gone after, so he wishes to shoot the boat earlier than it attracts the air. The Sentinel, he requests Cassidy for one, from the keys to the dangerous, and while she falters, he reminds her this is convention. Together along with his very own key, Hendrich starts activating the explosive, and earlier than he shoots, he attempts contacting Sullivan one last time. Thankfully, Sullivan does answer this time and the attack is cancelled. However, whilst Cassidy asks for her key lower back, Hendrich informs her he's keeping each as punishment for her hesitation and following orders. In a while, Sullivan tows the Deliver over to the Sentinel whilst Hendrix proceeds to analyze the ship. Sullivan reunites with Cassidy, and they spend some moments getting frisky to make up for a scare they simply went through some hours later while they've a short ID in bath. Baines informs the team of all the things he has managed to salvage from the Deliver. He's additionally positive this waste remedy, and that the engine hasn't worked in months. Sullivan wants to ship a message to the bottom, however Hendrix forbids it till they get more data, since nothing about this makes sense, despite the fact that it does remember as an occasion. The crew is beginning to get tired and wary of Hendrix's attitude, specifically after they observe he has each keys. Now after the bathe, Hendrix absolutely seems on the boat's path history and facts every one of the directions, which he returns to the Sentinel to use them on a guide to follow their time out. In the meantime, Cassidy and Sullivan talk what the sector ought to resemble obtainable. Since they haven't visible it in years, Sullivan admits he sent a message at the back of Henrich again, so they will have a solution tomorrow. The next morning, Henrich finds his 3 infantrymen suspiciously ready next to the telegraph, and Baines confesses the reality. Hendrix intends to scold them for it, however at that moment the system gets a solution. The group receives excited till they study what it says it's specific. Clever, identical message Sullivan sent closing night. It's then that they subsequently found out they lost contact with the base a long term ago, and the laptop has just been sending return the no events message Sullivan sends each day even as Hendrix keeps to paintings with the coordinates at the map. Bees starts sneaking into the ship with a plan in mind. One night Sullivan catches him coming returned, but Baines refuses to give an explanation for himself. The duo finally ends up ingesting together and Baines stalks some stories approximately the family that awaits him at home if domestic remains round in any respect. Suddenly Baines confesses he thinks he can restoration the ship. Excited through the desire of escaping, Sullivan rushes to provide Cassidy the news and asks her to leave with him to stay collectively in one of the few secure cities which are left on the continent. But Cassidy's hesitant and might not trust what she's listening to the following day. Sullivan slips in to the boat with Bees to assist him with solving the motor, and collectively they figure out how to finish the project. As soon as they arrive out, they find Hendrix waiting for them, and he orders them to take down the deliver to use its components to restore the Sentinel. He may not allow them to depart due to the fact he claims that staying right here is their responsibility, regardless if their contract has ended. Sullivan refuses to die here like it occurred to others within the Beyond, and Bees consents. But whilst Cassidy joins them, she does not display aid for them, now not being concerned approximately their arguments. Hendrich sends the group 2 paintings on upkeep, threatening them with his gun in the event that they do not obey. The men are furious and afraid. Hendrich has been too trigger glad recently, so Cassidy volunteers to talk to him subsequent. Cassidy tells Hendrich she knows he feels after he lost his ultimate squad, but going away does not equal loss of life. If anything, it is salvation. Meanwhile, Sullivan and Bees are beginning to marvel if they will ought to fight their boss to get what they want. Their dialogue is intruded on through Hendrix, who concedes. Cassidy has added a respectable rivalry in view that they do not have interchanges. Somebody need to answer to the bottom. 2 individuals get to remain, and others ought to go. Hendrix is obviously staying, and Cassidy has volunteered to live right here as well. Bees is satisfied with this development. However, Sullivan is heartbroken. Moments later, Sullivan talks to Cassidy in non-public, trying to convince her to come back as nicely, either through replacing Bees or disobeying Hendrix. He's so desperate to make her satisfied that he even gives to take her location or stay right here along with her. But Cassidy snaps and tells him she would not love him. She's only concept of him as a human necessity. But devastated Sullivan rushes out of the room, and Cassidy breaks down in tears that night time. Sullivan and Baines give attention to packing. Hendrix offers Sullivan a letter to take to the base, and he remarks at the fact that the enemy is exactly like them. Soldiers that simply need to shield their houses. Sullivan reminds Hendrich they could all leave collectively, but Hendrich nonetheless refuses, announcing someone desires to keep an eye at the explosive. Afterward, Hendrich finishes paintings on the map and the coordinates, making a shocking discovery. The alleviation ship has advised away from the Sentinel on motive, which makes no experience getting suspicious. Hendrich rushes to check on Cassidy. However, he would not dare to mention a phrase the subsequent morning. The organization awakens listening to the alert obscuring, considering that one more boat has confirmed up at the radar. The men race to get on their conditions to defend the Sentinel, and Cassidy attempts to attain out to the boat without a lot of any result. This time, Hendrich refuses to ship anybody and orders the team to shoot, but their first bullet misses. While they're on the brink of reload, Cassidy notices their deliver is lacking. At the same time, Sullivan and Bees eventually get to see it. Clearly, once the fog clears out, they do not want to shoot once more. But by the time Cassidy comes to warn them, it's too past due. Hendrix has his gun out and hits Bees with it. It was Hendrix that put the ship lower back out closing nighttime, and to prove he is being serious, he shoots the air dancer. Bane nevertheless refuses to wreck the ship, and Hendrix responds via taking pictures his ear. So Sullivan takes the cannon and destroys the deliver earlier than they lose a lifestyles. A furious Bees attempts to head after Hendrix, however Cassidy knocks him out first with a fire extinguisher. Afterward, Sullivan and Cassidy lock Hendrix up inside the pantry, and Cassidy takes return both keys. A furious Baines later tries to locate Hendrix to kill him and ends up hitting Sullivan whilst he attempts to prevent him. Cassidy quiets him down with words, but Baines actually leaves to get smashed by myself and unload his matters, which makes him cry in a touch whilst Cassidy specifies Hendrix desires his iodine shower. However, Bees will no longer let him out and reviews he stops. Sullivan tells Cassidy that they have no desire, however, to undergo every single channel on the telegraph till they locate one is running, and Cassidy takes the danger to admit she hadn't supposed what she stated approximately him. She had only desired him to go away while not having to fear approximately her, but Sullivan is hesitant to just accept the excuse. Later inside the afternoon, Sullivan takes a few food to Hendrix and wonders why he changed his thoughts about leaving Hendrix shares. The statistics he got from the coordinates, the relaxation deliver turned into right here 3 months in the past love it was supposed to, but something made it flow away. This way there is a traitor amongst them that wants. The explosive Sullivan would not consider him and leaves, locking the door once more, even as Sullivan spends the relaxation of his day sending sauced messages to each channel. Baines keeps on consuming and attempts to preserve himself busy in his workshop, but he soon loses his thoughts and destroys the whole lot he has built. Later within the night, Cassidy shares with Sullivan a photograph of her as a child along with her own family, explaining they were killed with the aid of the enemy while she became nonetheless a toddler. The following morning, Baines finds Cassidy snoozing within the comms room. As he rambles garbage approximately a missing destiny, he goes after Cassidy, inflicting it to seem as although he wishes to take advantage of her. After some conflict, Cassidy figures out how to drive him away, not understanding Baines has taken the keys. Then Cassidy goes looking for Sullivan to tell him what happened. But at that moment, Baines' voice can be heard via the audio system saying that he will activate the explosive. Sullivan and Cassidy rushed again to the comms room and tried to calm him down, mentioning his own family as a cause to keep reciting Baines' cries as he steps far away from the controls. However, after Cassidy takes lower back the keys, Bees admits he just forgot the last digit of the activation code. Sullivan thinks it's time to let Hendrick out, but Bees has shocking news. He attempted to kill him in advance, however when he entered the pantry, Hendrich become long past. An open window indicated he had ended matters for himself. When Cassidy and Sullivan checked the pantry, they may be devastated to peer. Baines stated the reality now not being capable of deal with his grief. Sullivan reads the letter Hendrix had written to the bottom, and he is greatly surprised to see Hendrix had asked for his command to be prolonged a while later. Cassidy indicates the now spotless studio to Sullivan to illustrate Baines is feeling far step forward and is fabricating another time. Bass admits his tremendous other were pregnant and he never were given to meet the child, which makes Sullivan correctly excuse him for the alcoholic eruption. Baines shows his gratitude with a hug earlier than getting on the boat to go back to salvaging stuff from the ocean. Cassidy goes with him, so Sullivan offers her a gun just in case. Then Cassidy thanks him with a kiss. Moments later, Sullivan makes a decision to attempt fishing again, and while he pulls up the net, he discovers Hendrick's frame with a wound on his head, which means someone killed him, and there certainly is a traitor with them, even as Sullivan runs to check on his friends' profiles for clues. Cassidy stares at Bees in the boat setting together a plan. Next, Sullivan examines on Hendrick's map arising with a theory as a typhoon starts off evolve brewing. Sullivan assessments the beacon outdoor and confirms it may be taken off and moved around. This means a person took the beacon away within the boat and made the deliver follow them rather than going to the Sentinel, explaining that coordinates then that a person killed the comfort crew and permit the deliver go with the flow away. A few hours later, only Cassidy comes again from the little experience, saying that Bees by accident fell and died at the same time as looking to take hold of a few plastic. Sullivan right now guesses she killed him and she or he turned into the traitor all along. However, he's too scared to say something yet. The following morning, Cassidy awakens on my own in mattress. Sullivan converses along with her simply via the walkie-talkie, making sense of he realizes she killed everybody and that she's spying for the adversary. However, he may not allow her to have the volatile. Cassidy then realizes she's lacking the keys and runs to the comms room, in which she unearths Sullivan inside the center of activating the explosive. Since they don't have any future, he does not mind blowing the Sentinel up with them still inside, with Sullivan preserving her at gunpoint. Cassidy tries to explain human beings in her place of origin are struggling, and he or she hated lying to him. However, Sullivan doesn't accept as true with her and turns on the explosive. However, instead of exploding the system, presentations a humorous little word that Bees want to repeat, which makes them comprehend. Bees had been programmed the explosive so no one can use it for destruction. In the quit, Sullivan and Cassidy have a little talk. They agree that regardless of what side of the battle comes, they may defend the Sentinel together and maintain on surviving. Thanks for watching video.